Dr. Damas, it's always a pleasure to have you back. Welcome. Yes, yes, yes. There's the crowd. Wait, look, he's talking about the crowd going wild, but we can't even hear him
I
because he's on
I
top.
can hear. See, the crowd is so wild. I got silenced by the energy. You feel them this morning? You feel them? They're
The
ready.
crowd is
They are
dope.
ready, and I'm ready to meet their levels of expectation.
I love it. I love it. How are you doing down there in Florida? Did you get to vote yet? What and are you did Helene or Milton do anything to y'all? How you doing?
So we've been lucky in South Florida, this part of Florida, Miami. We ain't get nothing but like some wind and a little something, something, So praise the Lord for that. We've been
Yes.
straight. I have not voted. I was going to do an absentee, but I might do a ceremonial in-person vote
You
on
should do that.
election day, just to
But
keep
wait,
it
don't do it on
100.
election day. We bank in the vote, Damas. We
Yeah,
get
we
we
are.
bank
Yeah,
we
I
voting
shouldn't get on
early
that.
because if something happens and then like you got like this amazing client who just needs a little bit of extra help, you're gonna be there. The poll's gonna close. Then I'm gonna ask you if you voted, and because you are a man of your word as a brother of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, you're gonna tell us the truth, and then we're gonna have to clown you, and we don't want to do that.
Yo,
You my
all right,
bruh. I'm gonna need you
all
to
right.
vote early. I'm gonna need you
I'm
to vote.
gonna go early. All right,
Thank you.
you
See how
convinced
easy that was, folks? That's what you
me.
do.
Easy peasy, easy peasy. You see
There it
that?
is. There it is. There it is.
Yeah. So I'm gonna vote. I'm gonna vote early. Get it done. I usually vote early
Yeah.
anyway, or mail
Yeah.
in. So, but I was gonna go. The day. Vote for the sister. Uh,
Yeah.
when Obama was running, I stood online. Shoot, I stood online. I took my son with me. I might have
Mm.
stood online like 2 hours
Wow.
to vote, which is
Wow.
bananas, right? This is like a
Yeah.
third world country type stuff. You know what I
Listen.
mean?
Well,
But
I'm sure in the white neighborhoods in your community, they didn't have
yeah,
much.
well, so that's funny because I went to the hood to vote.
That's what I'm saying.
It
You
was
vote
like,
if you vote where you live and you live with us. That's why I said don't be dropping off no mail-in ballots in your community. Because I'm in, where I'm at in Brooklyn at Bedford Stuyvesant, we got the Shirley Chisholm post office. And I love the Shirley Chisholm. I love Shirley Chisholm. The post office is much to be desired. I'm not taking no mail-in ballot to that post office, which be losing my mail. Like, no,
yo,
I need them to get their stuff together. Now I know one of
yeah,
my neighbors
Louis
is gonna
the
be mad
Joy
at me, but
got the
that's what.
Shirley Chisholm post office on his naughty list. Yeah.
Yes, he does. Any post office with a black name on it, I feel like Louis DeJoy has intentionally divested from.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Take the
bad.
machines out.
Give me the plugs. Keep the machine. Take the cords. That's what we
Yeah.
had at one point. We had voting machines. I think this was in Georgia. We had reports about voting machines being present, but the cords to connect the machine to the power outlet nowhere to be found. Can you imagine?
It's crazy. This
And I feel
is
like
this
Home Depot is like headquartered in Atlanta, so like all them
they
power
should
cords.
they should have been able to do that. It's something fishy,
Mhm.
something fishy. Yeah, we definitely have to bank the vote. So I'm a vote early.
Thank
Uh,
you. We appreciate you.
thanks for
Appreciate you.
like keeping things in perspective for me.
Got to. Got to.
I'm thankful.
Yeah.
It's the wonderful feminine energy. It
Listen,
balances
balance
out.
is needed. You can't have successful leadership with the absence of half the energy space.
That's
You
right.
got to have us in unison. And one
That's
of the
right.
things that we're also in unison on, watch how I do this little segue, is the
Ooh,
fact that we are still in Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You see how I did that? Boom. We
yeah.
just turned a corner just like that. The last time you were here, we were talking about breast cancer and the ability for CBD to help ease a lot of the ailments that come along with that. And today we're continuing that conversation, but we're talking about breast cancer and its impact on intimacy. Because in addition to radiation and the chemo and the treatments and the hair loss, we often don't have the capacity to even think about what the life of someone navigating that journey might look like when it comes to their intimacy practices and rituals. So, talk to us about this connection between breast cancer and its ability to make intimacy extraordinarily challenging for folks.
So the interesting thing about this topic and in the post that I wrote is that this past week I got a phone call from a woman. I'm not going to tell all her details, but she is listening. She actually did not. This is a funny story. She has not been listening to the show, so we got a new listener today
All right.
who,
Hi, Newbie.
yeah, who's
Hey,
listening
welcome.
uh, because she uses one of my products, the intimate oil, and we have
Mm.
been out of stock. And she's been calling like, "What's up? What's up with the stocking this up?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna get it in."
How
And
you run out of that? Or maybe that
so
means because it's such a
it is
well-loved
a
product.
super popular product,
Mm.
but we are back in stock. So anybody that wants to order, they can go online and order. We
And
are
this is
back
an
in
intimacy
business.
oil that's CBD based. So you
Yeah,
get the
correct.
oil and then you get the CBD
Yes,
combined.
you get the anti-inflammatory properties. But so she was telling me about her cancer diagnosis, and she actually had ovarian cancer, not breast cancer,
Wow.
but similar manifestations of like how it affects intimacy. And for her, she was saying, this is the only thing that's allowed her to maintain an intimate relationship with her husband,
Mm,
after her cancer diagnosis and her treatments and her surgeries. She's
wow.
like, without it, we lose that part of our lives together, which is very important. And it got me thinking about, as I mentioned, when my mom, I saw my mom kind of like struggle with loss of her identity when she lost her hair, and how like the cancer affects you in different ways. I never thought about my mom's intimacy, right? But now thinking back about it, I was like, yeah, probably at that point in her life, that aspect of her relationship with my father probably was not very very fruitful, right? And I thought about a number of patients. This is why we made that intimate oil, who will come to me and say, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. I would love to be intimate, but I'm dealing with A, B, C, and D. The typical things that you have when it comes to illnesses, and then you compound it with breast cancer. So that's why I was like, let's talk about the intimacy issue as it pertains to cancer, but particularly this month, breast cancer, because as you dive into the numbers, which we always do, we see that it's a very, very prevalent thing in terms of lack of intimacy or lack of sexual intimacy. And I was like, yeah, I think this is a good thing for people to talk about, not only in terms of sexual intimacy, but
Yeah.
also different types of intimacy, which can fill your cup up, even though you have this diagnosis of breast cancer and you're fighting through it.
I appreciate that because this idea that you can no longer live a full life while you're navigating these
Mhm.
forms of illness is, I think, something that causes a lot of fear for people. I saw, I don't know if you remember this sister Ananda. I can't remember exactly.
Yes,
Yeah,
Ananda
she
Lewis.
recently, yeah, it recently came out that she had, I believe it was a breast cancer diagnosis, or she found a
Yeah.
tumor and was employing a whole lot of homeopathic and non-traditional
Mm.
medicine methods, and unfortunately, the tumor has spread and it's now uh, reached some critical levels for her. And I'm so glad that she was talking about that. But as I was watching the commentary around it, one of the things I noticed was that there's a lot of fear that my life will be forever altered and I'm not going to be able to access. I'm not going to
Mm.
have an intimate life. I'm not going to have the things that sort of made me who I am. So I think this topic is right on point, and so good
Yep.
on you for that. But let's talk about this research. If you are navigating breast cancer, do we have any data that talks about your likelihood of experiencing some form of sexual dysfunction as a part of
Yep.
that diagnosis?
So there's actually some really good data on this in terms of, and we're going to talk it in different ways in terms of sexual dysfunction, lack of intimacy, but also decreased intimate interaction. So the two like extremes, and it's somewhere. So about 75% of women who suffer from breast cancer, being treated for breast cancer, suffer some sort of sexual dysfunction. So it includes hypoactive sexual desire, meaning you're not interested in it whatsoever, or you're kind of interested in it, but it's hard to get to the place, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, where you want to participate.
Sure.
And even if you can get through that step, is actually engaging in a way that is pleasurable, that is not painful. So
Mm,
you have like the three different levels of like, hey, I'm completely not interested, or I'm interested, but I can't get to the point where I can actually do these type of things, or I'm trying to do it, and because my body is suffering in many ways, this is something that's really painful. It's not pleasurable. I'm not getting what I want out of it.
okay.
And it affects not only your sense of self-being as a woman, as a partner, as a spouse to somebody else, right? But also affects the other person, right? Who's now missing this aspect of their lives as well.
and helping you to navigate hopefully all the other things that you're navigating. So their stress levels, if I mean, we're talking about an optimal relationship here. They're a caring, loving,
Yeah.
partner. So they're helping you already to navigate these things. They're dealing with the fears about what's going to happen to you, and then they can't get none. And I don't mean
Yeah.
to make it like that, but for a lot of folks, that becomes a compounding issue that I can imagine could be just terrible, and difficult to discuss, difficult to navigate in ways,
Correct.
particularly if you're only taking a form of medicine that doesn't really speak to the whole person. I would imagine that's terrible.
Yeah. So, one of the things that the research also found is that women who do have good intimate relationships, and then we're not just talking about sexual intimacy, but non sexual intimacy, have better mental health outcomes when they are being treated for breast cancer than those who don't. Right.
Mm.
So, I think the role of non-sexual intimacy is really important to make sure that we understand that intimacy comes in many forms, right?
Yes.
So it's
And
not
it
just
shouldn't take a cancer diagnosis for us to
is to
say
do
that.
that,
Like, because
right?
that's all the time. All the
Yeah,
time.
right. So, the emotional support, you have a partner, the emotional support that that person provides for you is a form of intimacy,
Mm.
physical closeness, touching, cuddling, hugging, those type of things are important as well. Engaging in activities so that you don't separate yourselves or put yourselves in silos because, hey, we've got this large thing that's overpowering or sucking all the air out of the relationship. And so now, if we're not focused on that or the day to day things, there's nothing else that we're doing, right? The shared activities. And then, acts of service, like doing things like continuing to date, right? All right. So continuing to treat that person as if like you're in love with them and doing those kind of little things. All those things actually benefit breast
Mm.
cancer survivors. The studies show that. And one of the examples is the physical touch, the cuddling, the hugging, the petting, those type of things. It actually releases a hormone called oxytocin, right? And so that's a really important hormone. It's called the bonding hormone,
It's
right?
also a hormone your body excretes when you're breastfeeding.
Yes,
Yeah.
very well, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So it alleviates stress, it improves mood, it decreases depression and anxiety. So if you think about it, just the intimate act of holding one another, just cuddling and holding, that plays a big part in the breast cancer survivor or fighter's, physical and mental health and well-being. And that's not sexual at all. We're just talking about holding one another. And
Yeah.
so these
Yeah.
type of things are important for us to, consider as you're working your way, because let's say you do have painful intercourse and you can't do it, right? But you can still get the benefits of bonding and closeness without that, right? Or, you do have the hypoactive arousal disorder. And so you don't really want to do that, but you still can get feelings of love, caring, emotion, fulfillment from these kind of activities.
I love that. And then we know that there are also some traditional treatments as well. And I know
Yeah.
you never start with just the CBD. You always give us the
Yeah.
full rundown. So that's some of the wholeness and wellness practices. What are
Mhm.
some of the traditional treatments for sexual dysfunction after a breast cancer diagnosis?
So the traditional treatments, and this is why it makes it hard. Like we have to talk about this stuff. Is that you're going through this treatment and you're getting chemo radiation, so you're really in this allopathic medicine, Western medicine kind of thing, right?
Hmm.
And so they kind of would stay along the same lines in terms of like treating sexual dysfunction with hormone, let's say, right? Hormone treatment, hormone replacement therapy. Right now, outside of breast cancer, that's a good idea for people who are like, perimenopausal, postmenopausal, right? You replace the hormones, estrogen, to kind of like get you feeling like yourself again, right? And then you can participate. But in many cases in breast cancer, that's like not a good idea because many of the breast cancers are hormone sensitive, estrogen sensitive. So you can,
Wow.
trying to do something is either using that kind of method is either completely out of the question or puts you at risk, for propagation of the cancer, right? And then, you can have like topical estrogen, but again, it's not really a great thing because it puts you at risk for hormone sensitive cancers. And then you have just the regular lubricants, right? The water-based, the oil-based lubricants. And so you're just looking at like, all right, what can I do to decrease, some of the pain or some of the abrasion, right?
Right, but that's
So
not necessarily increasing the pleasure, though.
no, it's not, right? So we're looking
Right.
at like things that like, very low options in terms of these traditional treatments for just, sexual dysfunction. And so, if you want to look at the whole person and say, well, what other things can we do? Right? Is it, since there's no like magic pill or bullet or something that's going to do it, right? What are some of the things that we can do to help? So one of the things that we mentioned was the psychological aspect of it, right? So talking about meditation, mindfulness, and things like reduce the anxiety because it puts you in a better mind state. Um, Yoga, being more physical, pelvic floor therapy,
Yep.
right? So
Get
that'll
those Kegels
strengthen
in.
yeah, get them in
And
because
men can Kegel too. I know we often talk about. I know men are like, "What the fuck? What is she talking?" So Kegels, it's simply an exercise. Like when you go to the bathroom and you have to urinate, the muscles that you use to stop urinating are actually the muscles that you activate during a Kegel exercise. So if you pretend you're urinating and then stop the flow of urination, that is working out your Kegel muscle. I don't mean to do my hand. I'm doing a hand motion. I'm like, that's not the hand. I'm not saying that that's what it looks
did
like,
you
but it's
see
like
my head?
a
My head was
contracting,
following your
like
hand.
a hand motion. It's like so you're contracting and releasing those muscles that allow you to either urinate or stop the flow of urination. Those are also the same muscles that you need to strengthen when you're talking about your pelvic floor. And men, you have a pelvic floor. So the same muscles that women are using to stop and we often talk about with Kegels for women because as you age, those muscles can loosen. It can make sexual intimacy a little bit more challenging for folks who need a tighter arena. And so, the pelvic floors are important and squatting position type exercises are good for the pelvic floor. I know this because I do yoga on a regular basis. So I'm just saying men and women have a pelvic floor. And when you Kegel and do the work of strengthening those muscles, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about strengthening your pelvic muscles. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's right. You guys
Yoga
make
comes in
sure you
handy.
remember that. She's dropping pearls on y'all. All
There it
right.
is. There it
Listen,
is.
gems. Right. So you have those exercises really important. And you also have herbal supplements. Now, interesting thing about those is sometimes you can take these supplements and they can interact with medicines, right? So you got to be careful about
Yes.
those. They can have some side effects because they're not well researched. But with the conversation I had with the woman the other day, was like, I like to support my patients, give them all the information that I can. They didn't say, realistically, you have to make your own decisions. And if you feel better doing something a certain way and understand, like, what's involved with it, right? Then I support that. Like, who am I to tell you, say how to
Right.
live your life? I'm going to tell you the best information and help you do what's best. But feeling empowered about how you're caring for yourself is a part of healing as well, right? So feeling comfortable with what's going in your body, what you're taking, and how you're being treated is really important. So if you're, want to take some of the things like ginseng or maca root or any other thing, you're more than
Just sea
welcome. Just make
moss.
sure you're doing it right and make sure it's not interacting with any medications or putting yourself at
Right.
risk. And
Right.
then finally,
And
we
be
get
careful who you listening to because there's a sister, although I really appreciated all her products. There's a sister out in Queens, Miss Zola. Miss Zola's Herbals. She has a female formula and a male formula with these sorts of products in them. And I will just say, natural products are naturally amazing. Do with that information
yes.
what you will. You were saying, Dr. Damas?
Exactly. So speaking of natural products, then we get to CBD and
CBD.
cannabis and
That's right.
how it can help with sexual intimacy, right? So there's lots of studies that show that CBD, cannabis can help improve intimacy. There's a few studies that show that couples who actually consume cannabis together have more close and frequent intimate relationships, right? So decreases allows for better communication. It decreases stress, anxiety, it relaxes people, they have more fun. Cannabis is known to encourage hedonistic activity. When we say
Oh,
hedonistic, so that means
write that
pleasure
down.
seeking. So
Write that
that's
down.
like, you get the munchies from cannabis, right? That's because that the food tastes good. It feels good to, chew or crunch on the food. So you chew a lot, you eat a lot, right? You feel good, you laugh, you giggle. right? You get the giggles
I
about it.
really thought you were going to go in a totally different direction.
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
know
how
you
am I going to
did.
redirect this to
I know you
good note?
did. You see,
I'm so
I
glad
set you
you
up.
went
It was
right
a hook.
around it. You
I
like were
was
like,
a
there it
hook.
is, but we're not going to do it. We're
You
just going
see
to
it?
let you know
That's
it's
because
there.
you know how nice I am with you. Know how nice
You
I
do be
am with
on your
you.
best behavior on this show.
You,
I do
you know
appreciate
how
that.
nice I am with mine. You know, I get it done without a heavy hand. You
There it
know what I'm
is.
saying?
There it is. I
Right?
appreciate that because it's
Yeah.
early morning. It's early in the
Yeah,
morning for
that's
some
right.
people.
Yeah. Right. And so it helps with the mindset, right?
Yeah.
Relaxing. And, you know, people who do consume cannabis and CBD do report more intense climaxes like. So even that, so when we talk about the pleasure aspect of things, right?
Yeah.
There are studies that show that that actually increases the pleasure, which is something that you talked about before, that it
Yeah.
is important, right? And so we're looking at two different ways to kind of get at it, right? So you look at the CBD way and you look at the THC way, which, you know, CBD will relax you. It's, you know, but you won't have an altered cognition, where the THC can like boost you up and make you feel happier and like, hey, I want to hang out, be playful with my partner. Then maybe, you know, just let go of everything that's going on and be able to stay in the moment. So kind of like,
Yes.
you know, get out of your mind and, you know, get into your body, you know,
Yeah.
so it'll help you to do that. And so there's different ways, right? You can consume it, smoke it, eat it, take edibles. And like we mentioned, you can have, you know, lubricants, intimate oils, which is what we have. And the great thing about that is that it allows for a lot of the cannabinoids to stay in your pelvis, which is good,
Oh,
right? Because you have, you know, you have this soft tissue mucosa down there that absorbs things very readily. So,
oh
and
wow.
you have a large amount of cannabinoid receptors in your pelvis.
Go ahead,
So
pelvis.
yeah, all right, pelvis doing their thing. It's getting exercised. It's getting exercised today.
Getting worked out, breathing better, stretched better. This is
Yeah,
lovely. And now you said that you had been sold out of the intimate oil, and I
yeah,
know you've got edibles, you've got the topicals, you've got the
yeah.
tinctures, you've got the flower for
Mhm.
inhalation. Mina's giving me the 2 minute mark, so I know you have all of these products in your store,
Yeah.
and I will say that, and I've said this before without any hesitation. All of the Damas products that I have used, the tinctures, the capsules, they have been absolutely dope. And like the ones that have absolutely no THC in it, I've incorporated in the vitamin regimen for the family.
Mhm.
So I'm imagining the intimate oil is going to be as dope. And it sounds like your patients definitely confirm, because you've been sold out for quite some time.
Yeah, we've been
So,
there. It's actually our most popular product. So that
wow.
speaks to, you know, and this is when I always say, like, people call. I love to hear the calls and the messages because it
Yeah.
lets me know what I need to do or what people are worried about, right? So
Yeah.
that that product came about as a result of women coming in and saying, like, this is what's going on with me and I need some help. And there's nothing out there that's going to do it for me, right? And
Yeah.
so, you know, the combination of things, like, so let's say, like, you know, the holding, the cuddling, the talking, you know, pelvic floor exercises, maybe some supplements, uh and the CBD and cannabis, all those things, right,
Hmm.
incorporating them can help get to a place where breast cancer survivors and fighters are able to be more intimate,
That's
right?
amazing.
Able to have different types of intimacy, right? From non sexual to sexual intimacy, more pleasurable intimacy. And as we said in the research, it shows that it has better mental health outcomes for them
Hmm.
as well. So, you know, and
Okay.
that's what we want, right? We want
Yes,
things
that's
that
what
are going to
exactly
be
what we
better.
want.
And this is one thing that helps in that way. So, you know, incorporating all those things is really important.
One of the Nubians said we should tell the brothers that Kegel exercises also help with erectile dysfunction. So there's that.